how are they doing it on television? And imagine that, what, 23 years ago? You know, it's like, it just blew everybody's minds, and the networks didn't know what to do with this, I'm just gonna be frank. The network just was like, oh, let's just get rid of this quickly, we don't know what this is. And it was literally, you know, the viewers that embraced it and just were so hungry for this creative, intelligent, amazing world, and it was really because of that Twin Peaks became, it was like an underground cult, and it sort of still is, and I think it's really, really beautiful that you're all embracing it and studying it, because it's really special and really amazing to be a part of it.
There's no cell phones in the whole thing.
It's so weird to me when I watch this, like no one has a cell phone.
You just smoke in the double R.
You know, just to tell you where Hollywood was at, or television, when the Emmys came up that year, you know, and Twin Peaks was nominated for a whole bunch of, one of them that I thought for sure would be a shoo-in was the music. I mean, you know, Angelo Badalamenti's music, there was nothing like it. There was nothing on television like it. And the guy that won was a guy that did, a whole bunch of, if you look, you'd find out the guy that won the award for music, for the best music on a show, had done like a whole bunch of like half-hour, you know, the typical music that was just like crap. I can never figure that out. I know that David, everybody was so disappointed that we won nothing. I think it was one of the reasons why David left the show and went on to just make movies after that.
I found a letter the other day. We had a Brandon Tartikoff exhibit at the school, and it's a handwritten letter from Brandon, running NBC, to David Lynch, that says Twin Peaks was robbed at the Emmys. And can you imagine the head of a network writing to someone else's show to tell them how incredible their show
Someone else's network too, because it wasn't even an NBC show.
Yeah.
Do you remember what won Best Drama that year? Equal Justice.
but let me tell you what happened. I went on the road. I did a whole tour with Twin Peaks, and we went back to Washington and New York and Chicago, and I talked to a lot of people about it, because one of the reasons was, you know, when I heard it was going to be canceled, and I talked to a lot of people, and I'd say, you know, and almost everybody, what they would come up and say would be either be college kids, and they'd say, oh my God, we watch it, we have a whole room full of kids. There's like maybe, you know, anywhere up to 100 kids watching it, and not one of them have that machine in their house. What is it?
The Nielsen.
The Nielsen ratings, you know, not one of them. And then other people would come up and they would say, you know what, I don't watch television, but I watch Twin Peaks. And they obviously didn't have a Nielsen rating in their house. So when I came back, I was at a party, and Robert Ivers was up, and everybody was up there. We were talking, and I walked up to him and I told him, and I said, you know, I just went on a tour around the country, and I'm not telling you, I mean, this show has like just thousands and thousands of fans, but none of them, they're not couch potatoes. None of them sit and watch television all night. They watch this show and the news, or, you know, or it's college kids that are watch it in a huge group, and none of them have this Nielsen rating. And he said to me, I know that. He says, we know that. The problem is not that. The problem is that the sponsors that pay money for the show, they probably don't even watch television. They just watch the Nielsen ratings. And the Nielsen ratings, when they're low, they cancel the show. And that's how it got canceled. Obviously, I mean, here we are celebrating it how many years later? You know, we're not celebrating some show that's, you know, you call it a television series. What was it on, like a year and a half? I mean, you know, it was barely on. It wasn't really even a series.
They also moved us to Saturday.
Yeah, and then they moved it too. So
We used to be the water cooler show. Everybody met at work the next morning and said, did you see the show last night? What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And then they moved us to Saturday night.
Because they wouldn't listen to
Pretty
what they were
weird.
telling them to do.
it should have gone
The
on.
network was telling them to do stuff, and Bob and everybody else were doing what they were supposed to do creatively, and bosses don't like that.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
move you.
it's the solving of the murder. That's really the crux historically of the narration, is that we were told that when we came back, we would solve the murder, and that was never, ever going to happen. Right? That once we had to solve the murder, a lot of the scenes, the dialogue, a lot of the character development is all about guilt about Laura, right? All the scripts are full of that, right? They feel bad, or they feel good, or they want to make money, but it's all about her death. The minute we said who did it, that just took the bottom out of that thing, right? And that was Bob Iger, and he has since said that was a mistake. But,
I
goes
think
back to
that
it's too late now. Thanks a lot.
I think that also, after we did the pilot in the first 7, the marketing people at ABC got a hold of it, and they did a really long marketing campaign before the show even came on the air, months and months beforehand, where they would do these little blurbs that were like, "Want a donut?" or "Had some good coffee?" or "Who killed Laura?" And it became like this thing, who killed Laura Palmer? Who killed Laura Palmer? And I gotta tell you, when we were working on the show, I never really even was concerned with who killed her. It was never even the issue. It was like just about the town and what went on in there, and just kind of, it was never like a whodunit to me. And so when the marketing people got a hold of it, and they kind of turned it into, like, it was like everyone wanted to know who killed Laura Palmer, and it just kind of took on that thing. And I think then we sort of, they had to solve it or whatever, and then that's where it ended up.
So we should start having you guys line up if you have any questions that you want to ask. We'll put a microphone over there in just a second, and just remember to please be considerate not to reveal major plot points. I did want to ask though, I've heard that there was a plan for season 3, or an original season 3, not this, the rumor about something going on now, but.
True?
Here's the deal about I can't speak to the present rumor, but the actual planning when we were doing it, there wasn't an actual plan, but in how television works, it goes so fast, and you're suddenly, especially for writing and producing it, you're trying to get so far ahead as fast as you can. So there were naturally lots of discussions about what would happen in season 3, but there was never, to my knowledge, and I certainly, because I went from doing Twin Peaks to partnering with David on lots of other scripts, there was never a real plan of a season 3. There were lots of stuff, you'd want to do. You know what I mean? There was, from how outlandish we could be to would we, Harley Payton. Is Harley going to come? Yeah, Harley had the best idea for season 3. But what happens, you're on the set and the writers are there, and you're always talking about, well, God, if we have to start again in May, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? So that's how they all come up. But there was never like a document or a thing. But Harley had this great idea. I think Harley and Mark, that we would solve everything that was left hanging at the end of the second season. Like in the first 20 minutes of season 3, and then it would go, the screen would go black, and then it would be black, and they go to commercial and still be black, and then it would come up, and then this printing would come up, and it would say 10 years later. And then we would take everybody in the series and move them to another job, right? So everybody would be doing something different, right? And basically we just start over. So, but there's a point, and I'm sure you guys had that same thing too. It kind of felt that somewhere in the middle of that second season we were sucking wind. It was, you know what I mean? It just didn't, for whatever reason it is, you kind of know. You know what I mean? But there wasn't a real plan. There was never a Bible for the first one. We used the ABC wanted a Bible, right? Bible is you guys know it's a big document that explains what happens in the series and what's going to happen in the series. They're usually pretty thick things that you have to turn into the network. We never did that. We never had one of those, right? Some fan, after the first 4, sent us this huge document that had all these things he thought about series. It was a big, thick book, and we just sent that over to ABC. I actually found that the other day, and I thought I should try to find this guy and tell him to see about this. So we later, because they never read it either, right? So there you go.
But and also, if there had been a season 3, do you think the end of season 2 would have looked anything like what it was?
No, yeah, because yes, it would have, because we didn't have the official adios by the time we were shooting that last one. So, so it would have looked like that. You know what I mean? But you know, it looks so. Well, we can't. Time you guys haven't changed it, but there's so much. David gets a lot of criticism for like, well, that was kind of I don't think I'm giving it away. Well, that was kind of like a fuck you to television. He's not like that. He's not that person. You know what I mean? That wasn't what it was. So, yeah, we would have had to come up with something completely different.
You could have taken Agent Cooper on the road to another town, solve another murder.
Exactly.
But David had told me that he never intended Twin Peaks to be very long. I mean, he always envisioned it to be a very short story and never revealed the killer, and it was just a way to examine a small town and all of the inner workings. So, I mean, everything about the concept was really never meant to be on television.
No, in the sense of how it was structured, you know, the 2 series we stole from all the time, and in television you do a lot of that, was Mayberry, right? Andy Griffith's show. You can see that Andy's in the, you know, it's Andy. And in Mayberry and The Fugitive. The Fugitive is one of the few shows David's really familiar with, right? So those are the 2 shows. I mean, yeah.
Right, do we have questions from? Yeah.
Hi, thank all of you for coming. Is this on? Yeah. Collectively, as a group of actors, all of you have worked with everyone from Robert Wise to Al Adamson, and you also had a variety of directors on the show, not just David Lynch, but also Mark Frost and apparently Diane Keaton. So I was wondering, how did all of these directors, both on and off the show, how did David Lynch differ from them working with actors, and how is he similar? How did he compare to the other directors you've worked with?
You're Bob Wise.
Well, he was certainly different, and you know, every director has their own method. Robert Wise was kind of he didn't give much direction at all. He hired actors that he thought were capable of doing the parts, and he was more of an editor. He gave very little direction. He would just go in and he would sort of, which I always liked. I thought the real job of a director is, you know, to, like a traffic cop, to sort of point you in the right direction, but not get in the car and drive it. The directors that always bothered me the most were the ones that would give you too much direction, you know, give you line readings, or now walk over here and you know, and accent that. I mean, that was like insecurity to me. I like directors that give you some freedom, and that's. I think that Lynch did that. I don't remember him. You know, he would talk. He was more of a surreal kind of director. I don't think I ever worked with anybody that gave me such obscure directions as he did. It was always something that had nothing to do with. Well, it had something to do with the part, but it wasn't anything direct. It was always, you know, beating around the bush. He would get you off in some other direction to do it. So. Different directors. I worked for Cecil B. DeMille. I mean, and Cecil B. DeMille was like a tyrant. I mean, he had 2 people walk around with him. One guy held a microphone in front of his mouth whenever he was going to talk, and another guy had a chair behind him. And DeMille wouldn't even look. He would just walk around the set and sit down, and the chair was always there. But he kind of. You know, he just thought of himself as, well, what I could tell you about DeMille is that in Samson and Delilah, he needed a voice for God in the beginning, so he used his own voice. But all directors are different. I mean, they all work in different ways. You know, some are a little more back, some are right down in front with you, and it depends. I always got along The worst ones I got along with, like I said, were the ones that gave you too much direction.